Hello and welcome to Full Disclosure, a podcast project conceived entirely to let me spend more time with interesting people than I would ever be allowed on the radio. Martin Shaw, welcome. I'm excited about this one. Well, I'm excited about all of them, but I was particularly excited about sitting down with you because you are, I mean, you sort of run through the dramatic history of the last few decades like Blackpool through a stick of rock.
Kind of.
We begin at the very beginning. I didn't know you were a Brummie. I was fascinated to discover that you were. But I think probably the first thing of note was how young your parents were when they had you.
Absolutely. My mother was 19, my dad was 21. And back in 1944, that was very young indeed.
But you wouldn't be aware of it as a child because you only know the parents that you've got. But in some ways, they'd be closer in age. You'd be closer in age to them than some of your contemporaries were to their parents, and almost similar generations if you broke it down.
Absolutely. I mean, they were very good people, naive, incredibly young, and in the case of my mother particularly, traumatized by the war.
Yes.
And it gave her intense nervous problems for the rest of her life and mine. You
lived with her parents, I think, as a family. There's a lot of people in a small house.
Telling me. Yes, I mean, it was one of those very early council houses. I think they were built around the First World War. And my parents, and I only know this anecdotally, but they got a flat somewhere in Erdington, and my mother stayed there a week and said, "I want to go home." Oh. So my poor old dad, who adored her, we ended up with my grandmother in Erdington, yeah.
So a lot of love in the house,
yes,
I think.
Yes, great deal.
I read that your dad was a non-conformist, but I'm not quite sure what that means. Do you mean religiously or socially or all of the above?
Across the whole spectrum. My dad was a wonderful man, very damaged by having his father walk out when my dad was 9. And life was very, very difficult there. That would have been in the late 20s, early 30s. And they were extremely disadvantaged by that. And he couldn't get the education that he wanted. And he was naturally incredibly intelligent. And he had aspirations which were quashed. And I think that stayed with him for most of his life.
Never to be seen again, his dad, pretty much? Or, I mean...
No, not at all.
Which again would have had stigma as well, wouldn't it?
Yes,
Social shame as well as dashed ambitions.
He was just gone. And I remember many years later, I must have been in my late teens, we were driving through Quinton, and my dad said, "I think my father's buried in that cemetery over there."
Gosh.
And I said, "Well, let's go and find his grave." And he was resistant.
Really?
Yeah.
Because he shut that door.
But I wanted to.
Yes.
And so I walked around and around the cemetery until I saw a grave with Edwin Shaw's name on it, But my dad was not particularly, he wasn't engaged, No. He didn't want to say, "Oh, bugger him," or he didn't want to say, "Oh, yeah," he just said, okay, let's go.
Survival mechanism, probably.
Yes, absolutely.
I wonder if that's why he was so keen to start creating his own domestic bliss so quickly, if he wanted to settle down and create a family and a home, because he hadn't had one for much of his life.
I think so, but also it goes in a sense to the naivety and their youth, because my mother looked a lot like Ginger Rogers, and she was passionate about ballroom dancing and was very, very good at it. In fact, we had a cup, on the...
Really?
We had a cup on the big bookcase that my mother had won. And my dad sort of looked like one of those dark, wavy-haired Italianate film stars.
Right.
And I think both of them were into that without actually really getting to know each other.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Yeah. And just extreme youth,
Yes.
Youthful crush.
Yes, but a happy marriage?
I suspect not.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't think so. It was compromised, I think, by the confines of the house that we were in.
Of course.
By my dad adoring my mother so much.
Right.
And my mum being so traumatized by the war.
Of course.
And also she was She was the product of a surprise birth, I think, because her brother was 11 years older, and he could do no wrong, and my mother was the little doll.
Right.
And you've done therapy, you
Yes,
know.
I have.
You know how all these things can echo through generations.
Yes, absolutely, and through families.
Mm.
So what was where did you sit on that scale? Could you do no wrong when you were little? Because I got an image of Grandma being the apple of Grandma's eye.
Absolutely. I was the apple of Grandma's eye. I was the apple of my mother's eye, but she was unable to show it.
Oh, okay.
And I think that she was alarmed, disconcerted, worried, defensive about showing affection. And so the message that I got, really, which I understand now through my journey through therapy, was confused. You know, your mother adores you, you're the most important thing in your life, but I seem to be the one causing her trouble. So that was it was difficult. It was difficult, but I only see this in retrospect,
Yes,
because
of
when
course.
you're a child, this is what reality is. You don't have a chance to work it through, you know. So her mental instability stayed with her till her death, but she was a very jolly, funny woman, but she was not stable.
Were you a performer at home? Would you make her laugh? Would you try and jolly her out of her low moments?
I don't think so. That didn't come until a sort of a natural way of being arrived. When I remember at school, one of the teachers saying, "Let's do stories. Who wants to tell us a story?" And of course, when we were only about 8 or 9, nobody got up, and I thought, well, I'll tell a story. And I didn't know I could do that.
Oh,
but then
wow.
my father used to read bedtime stories. And he was brilliant at bedtime stories, and he did all the voices.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I had that grounding. And I remember telling a story at the class, and then the teacher saying, "Oh, okay," and actually having to stop me, because I didn't find that difficult.
And you felt something you hadn't felt before. You sort of had a sense of this. Hang on, I'm good at this.
Exactly. And as things progressed, you know, and more school, I found that I wasn't very good at very much at all, except English and drama.
Was Mum a frustrated performer then with the dance? Did she dance after you were born, or had she got it all out?
Very little.
Okay.
Very little. But I think she was. I mean, they were both frustrated because they both had enormous talents that they had no outlet for.
What were your dad's? The storytelling and things like that?
Well, storytelling. He had an extraordinary mind.
Right.
But at that time, if you didn't have university, you didn't have a recognized education and something that looked good on paper, you were not given the opportunities.
Yeah.
And so it was quite a struggle for him too.
And he would have been conscious of that. I mean, at university, presumably, particularly with an absent father, wasn't even a sort of distant prospect for someone from his background.
Not even remotely. He couldn't even go to the secondary school that he was entitled to and was going to go to, because his mother couldn't afford the books or the uniform.
Gosh.
And so I know for a fact he carried that with him. But he went to night school.
Later?
Yeah.
Because he wanted to learn. He just wanted to
wanted
absorb
learn.
knowledge for knowledge's sake.
He wanted to be able to say to the bosses, "This is what I can do." But
Yes.
But it was always held back because he didn't have the school or the...
So you didn't grow up, and this is where the phrase nonconformist kicks in again, so either despite or because of his frustrations. I sense you'd never grew up thinking that certain futures weren't for the likes of you. You would have, because by the time you leave home to come to London and go to drama school, you don't seem to have been held back by any sense of thinking people from my kind of background shouldn't be having dreams like this.
In a way I was, but fortunately there was something else. I mean, I think the ground of being that I got from my father was integrity and kindness.
Mm.
And throughout my experience of life, you know, love conquers all, and integrity and kindness are, I suppose, aspects of love. And so I think it enabled me to just come out of the box enough to find out, and then make my own way out of the box. When I left school at 16, and I didn't like school. In fact, I hated school.
Really?
Absolutely hated it. And I was irritatingly precocious and self-destructive in the sense that I could tell if a teacher was not a good teacher.
Yes.
And if the teacher paced up and down, pointing at the blackboard and wanted us to memorize what he was saying, part of me knew that this wasn't the way to do it. I don't know how or why, but I knew I needed to be enthused. And
that was his job?
Yes.
Yes.
And very few of them did it. But two of them did it as a work of art, my English teacher and my drama teacher.
Oh, gosh.
So, guess what?
Yeah, but what if the maths teacher and the physics teacher had been the brilliant? Where would we be today?
Well, honestly, I really don't know. I suspect nowhere. Because I still think, and it's only partly true, but not completely untrue, I'm virtually innumerate.
Really?
Yes.
Gosh.
I mean, I was trying to work out my electricity bill with a calculator a couple of days ago. And I just kept doing it. And by the time I got to the end of the calculation on the calculator, I'd forgotten what the beginning was. So, no, I don't think I have any acumen for figures whatsoever.
But words were a different matter.
Words were an entirely different matter. And I loved vocabulary. And I had some wonderful teachers. Even before I went to secondary school, I had a brilliant teacher.
It's a two-way street, though, isn't it, Martin? They must have seen something in you that prompted them to be on their A game, as it were.
I think so. Yes, entirely right. But the secondary school I was at was divided into groups, and so if you did well in the intermediate exams, you would go up, and if you did badly, you would go down. And in the lower groups, that's where I found the enthusiastic teachers who were interested and wanted to really get you going. And then at the top, it was dry and a teacher with a very chalky gown falling off his shoulder and, throwing the blackboard rubber at people.
God, yeah.
You know the one.
I do, actually. I saw the end game of that little era of education.
Yeah.
So there's no sense of your dad's frustrated academic ambitions being hung around your neck, then?
No,
That's good.
I don't know, not at all. But when I left school, I went to work in a chemical company in Hockley Chemical Company. You have to say that in a Birmingham accent. The Hockley Chemical Company. In the sales office, because that was what my dad had been doing.
Right.
And the sales director obviously saw something. I don't know what it was, but one day I saw him looking at me across the office. And he said, "Have a look at these leaflets." And he gave me a whole load of leaflets because it was about barrel deburring and taking this stuff off metal and so on. And they had a new machine. And he said, "Read all those leaflets and then write me a direct mail advertising and tell people why they should buy it." And I was only 16.
Yeah.
Well, by the end of the week, I was running the campaign with a secretary who was old enough to be my grandmother, which was quite confronting.
Yeah.
But in the evening, I was continuing to do semi-professional theatre because my drama school teacher was doing street theatre.
Right.
And
is this the Pied Pipers?
Well done. Yeah. This is the Pied Pipers, and it was commedia dell'arte, and we would improvise a theme in a rented school hall and then go out at the weekends to the bomb sites, of which in 1960-61 there were still many in Birmingham. And that was the start of that, improvisation.
So would you just try and gather an audience on the bomb site, would you?
Yeah. I mean, that was the Pied Pipers part of it, because everybody who could play an instrument did, and those who couldn't had a kazoo. Then we would gather the children in a circle and say, "Now, children, this is the story of..." And we were wearing commedia dell'arte costumes, Arlecchino and Columbine.
Yeah.
And then just perform. But they were invited to participate.
Quite a. I mean, is it visionary? What would the word be to describe that drama teacher? It was quite on the nose. I mean, that was quite a bold thing to do at the time in that area.
He was extraordinary in every sense of the word. I mean, bear in mind that when I started in his classes, it would have been about 58, 59. And then he would do after-school classes, and we had quite a big school hall. He actually looked like a Neanderthal. And I'm told that they were remarkably intelligent species, you know. I mean, it's used disparagingly.
Yes, of course.
But he was a rugby player, very muscular, prognathous jaw. But he would put on a piece of classical music and then say, right, dance to it. And we just had to dance to whatever the movement was. Now, at first, I thought, oh, my God, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Especially as people could see in from the outside. But when I tried it, I thought, my God, this is liberating.
Really?
Although I didn't know it was liberating, but I know now that was
what was happening.
The thought process. So we were flinging ourselves around to this music.
Really?
And it sort of unlocked something, a permission not to be embarrassed.
That's really valuable.
Mm.
And he knew exactly what he was doing.
Oh, boy, did he ever.
What was his name?
Tom Knowles. I went to his funeral many, many, many years later as an adult.
Did he see your success?
No, I
Not
don't
quite.
think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
But my English teacher, Alan Hill, did. And I corresponded with him.
Other boys in the class presumably were not responding in the same way that you were. So that's why it's so valuable,
Mm-hmm.
that sense of being set free from embarrassment, because the idea of looking at it's effeminate.
Mm-hmm.
It's not serious, it's not sporty, it's none of the things that would have been valued by the average 12-year-old Brummie boy, and yet somehow it spoke to you.
Well, I mean, this is incredibly non-woke and probably now illegal, but at one class we were asked to be, and this was a Tom Knowles class, we were asked to be a burning candle.
Gosh.
And so, the idea was to start like this and gradually melt. And there was one boy in the class who was our star footballer, just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And he was playing up and giggling and giggling and giggling. And Tom Knowles walked over to him. Don't forget, he's a rugby player. And he picked this boy up by the scruff of the neck and just dangled him and said, Be a candle. Be a candle. Dropped him to the floor. And we all thought, okay.
This isn't very effeminate after all.
Exactly.
When did the sort of planets begin to align then? Because you've got off to a spectacular start in the world of what you probably didn't even know was called copywriting, even though that's what you were doing. Yeah. But you're still doing it in the. Had you allowed yourself to frame an ambition that you could do this sort of thing for a living?
No, not really. I mean, the careers officer at the end came and talked to me and listened to my thoughts and said, you go and be a librarian. And I thought...
That's the opposite of an actor, in a way, isn't it? Apart from the literary connection or the words, if you had to pick two the sort of jobs on the scale of attention, the librarian would be at the bottom of whatever.
Absolutely. It couldn't have been worse. But fortunately,
yes,
I used to go to the Central Jazz Club in Birmingham and listen to traditional jazz. And I met a girl, and she was far more intelligent than me and far more grown up than me. And she wanted to be an actress, and she was going to RADA.
Okay.
And
so what are you now, 17, 18, or a bit younger still?
Just coming up to 18.
Just coming up to
18. And I said, that's in London, and that meant she was going to go away.
Oh.
And I thought about it, and I thought, well, I'll go to RADA then. And half of it was, I think I might have a talent for this.
Right.
But half of it was I didn't want her to go away. And so I auditioned for RADA, and I didn't get in. I got a well done, try again.
Okay.
But at that time, there were 3 great drama schools. There was RADA, there was LAMDA, and there was Central.
Yes.
And I auditioned for LAMDA and I got in, which was incredibly fortunate because LAMDA suited me far better than RADA would have done.
What did Mum and Dad think of this plan?
Oh, they were very worried.
Yes, I bet they were.
Oh, they were very worried.
You've done what?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was, well, they thought it was incredibly insecure.
Yeah, well,
as
they
a
were right,
profession.
weren't they?
They were entirely right, completely right.
But that's what they were worried about. They weren't worried about airs and graces, or
not
they
sure.
just wanted you to be. And you've got a good job in the chemical factory. You've got a future there. You've got security. You've got a pension, presumably on the horizon. All of these things, and you weren't interested in that.
No, I just wanted to go where Janet was.
So it wasn't. I was going to say it wasn't the lure of the grease paint and the roar of the crowd. It was the allure of Janet that was the.
100%. 100%. I mean, knowing what I know now, having done the therapy journey and so on, I think a lot of us have got that impulse inside us to get out.
Yes.
And do something. So I know that was there, and there was the exciting idea of being in London, and. So off we went and got a bedsitter in Paddington for £2 10 a week, and off to LAMDA. And by Christ, that was when the world got turned around.
Right.
Because our inception was very, very scary. Because I had an idea of what it might be like. I thought everybody was going to speak beautifully, and I must change whatever residual accent that I had, and that I thought that there was a certain way to be. Janet and I had gone to Birmingham Rep, whenever production was on, then to the Alex, and then every weekend we'd go to Stratford.
Gosh.
And look at the actors in The Dirty Duck.
Yeah.
And they all had a certain way of being. And I thought that was really what one had to be, a chappy, bloody old man.
Did you try to be like that?
Well, no, I didn't try. I didn't try to be. Thank God, I didn't try to be. But I thought that was how you had to be.
Yes.
Until I got to LAMDA.
Well, this is a very era-based thing as well, isn't it? Because this is kind of the point where it stopped being all Terence Rattigan plays.
Exactly.
And started being a bit more Alan Sillitoe type territory, John Osborne. I mean, you were kind of, and I know that you got cast in Don't Look Back in Anger not long after leaving LAMDA, but you were was it right in the middle of it? 5 years previously, possibly you would have started trying to talk like Terry Thomas.
No,
5 years later, 5 years later, you wouldn't have had the comparisons to make, because the world would have turned even more by then, and the Finneys and the Tom Courtneys would have been in their pomp.
100%.
Gosh.
Yeah. And the ethos at LAMDA. I mean, we had people like Charles Marovitz, Thelma Holt,
Gosh,
Peter Brook.
Yeah.
I mean, these were all the people who were involved with LAMDA. And, our inception speech was really daunting about how difficult and demanding professional and dedication was. And I thought, oh, my God. And they were, I remember Norman Ayrton, the vice principal, saying, if you don't fit in, we'll throw you out. If you misbehave, we'll throw you out.
So it was a training with a purpose. It wasn't a kind of dilettante faffing about for 3 years.
Absolutely not.
They wanted you really schooled and ready to work and to earn. But
I mean, this was the apotheosis, if you like, of professionalism, of what it means to be an actor. It means that you are an artist, and we'd seen films of how strict aspiring ballet teachers were told. It was like that.
Okay. But you were ready for that, I think.
I wasn't, no.
No, not at all.
I really wasn't, because, I mean, I
think Tom Knowles might have given you a bit of preparation for it.
He gave me some preparation for it, but my background and my journey thus far, I think had given me a pretty severe dose of imposter syndrome.
Right.
But also I understood that I'd got the beginnings of clarity, of interacting with clarity. But in my 18-year-old sense and my insecurity, it manifested as bombast.
Okay.
So at the end of the first year, You're getting it, aren't you?
I am getting it. I'm just ringing a couple of bells.
So at the end of the first year, the happiest year of my life thus far,
Yeah.
I was sent into the principal's office, and he said, Michael McCann, the great, great Michael McCann, said, well, I think we're going to have to let you go.
Whoa.
And
Ice in the veins.
worse, all my blood drained out of my body, and my ground of being, because genuinely that was the happiest year of my life by far. And he said, you ride roughshod over the students and the staff.
Oh.
And truly this had no resonance with me at all. I absolutely, genuinely didn't know. And so we talked for a bit, and he said, I'm not convinced, but I'm going to let Margaret Collins talk to you. Who was another one of the staff.
Mm.
And I'll accept what she says. And I went across the corridor and talked with Margaret for, I think, nigh on 4 hours. And the essence of it was that you don't know, do you? You don't know. And I said, no. And I didn't really, truly understand it even then, but I just knew that I had to be different. And so Michael McCohen said, all right, he would let me stay. And then people in the second year kept coming up to me and saying, what have you done? You're so different. You're so different. And I truly wasn't really deeply aware of being so different. But I was deeply aware of being aware, if you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
And of being kind and listening a lot.
Being your father's son.
Yeah.
A bit more than you had been in your first year.
Yeah.
When you were playing the role of what you thought a first-year drama student should be like.
Absolutely.
Perhaps.
And as soon as I was hearing, my in drama school friend Brian Cox,
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
talking about that, well, sure, get away. I says, Martin, you've got to shave the beard off, you look terrible. All that stuff. I thought, you don't have to speak beautifully.
No, of course.
And he was such an amazing actor, and still is.
You could see it then. I mean...
Could you ever? Yeah.
That's really interesting, isn't it? That line that she said to you, that you don't know, do you? And that's why they gave you the benefit of the doubt.
Mm.
It's the difference between arrogance born of insecurity and arrogance born of entitlement, I think.
Brilliant, yes, entirely.
And yours was the first kind.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yes, and it's, the accumulated wisdom of knowing the difference and of coming across it.
Quite lucky. And that junction in your life.
I mean, James, so lucky. So lucky. Time after time after time after time. Even I think the greatest insight in what acting meant was when we were asked to do scenes from plays. And I did a scene from Long Day's Journey into Night. And I played the younger brother, who virtually said nothing. He just interjected occasionally, and the older brother was full of angst and alcohol and so on. And suddenly I realized all I had to do was listen. That was it. That is the whole story. And for the first time in my training, I understood what acting was about.
Okay.
I didn't have to do anything. Because I really, really was fond of this other guy as a friend, but as a brother within the play and the intensity of the writing. And I was moved by him, and I didn't have to act the tears, I didn't have to act the feeling. All I had to do was listen.
Gosh.
And that, for me, in the ensuing 60 years, has been... Just listen and see what happens.
This is what actors mean when they talk about being present, I think, isn't it? You're just there. In a way you can't really explain to a civilian. It's a different level of engagement and consciousness. God. Where would you have put yourself on the how good you were? So you could watch someone like Brian Cox and think, Christ, he's brilliant. What kind of perception did you have of your own talents at this stage?
Very little.
Really? Just didn't think about it?
I didn't. No, I don't think I thought about it very much. But there was another inspirational teacher there, a teacher called Vivian Matalon. And he encouraged this whole thing about listening. Don't demonstrate. Don't try to tell the story. Don't anticipate. Basically, it just came down to listen and how do you feel. And, I mean, we did another great American play called Dark of the Moon, in which I had to say nothing.
Really?
I didn't even have any lines. But I was in the congregation of a church when the Baptist preacher is getting the congregation going. And I was given it all that. And afterwards, Vivian Matalon, after he'd given notes to everybody, Vivian Matalon came to me and he said, "Don't think that I didn't see what you were doing. Don't ever underestimate your contribution by doing what you're doing." And that was something else that stayed in me.
Of course it did, though, because a lot of other people would have been counting lines and cursing the person who'd not given them any, but you still found the beauty in doing what you did on that stage. First year, Martin would not have been able to do that, I don't think.
No, I wouldn't have been able to do it in the first year, not at all. Not at all, because I thought it was... Yes, we all love the applause.
Yes.
We all love that feeling of, I got that line absolutely right. This feels good. But actually, what feels best is that spontaneous emotion that comes through you, or spontaneous joy, spontaneous feeling. And it only comes from listening and not caring about how good you are.
Not having the mental... I mean, you're not going to the space where you care about how good you are. You're in a different space, as we said. So as the end of the third year, the end of the final year approaches, what would have been your... either your plan or your ambition? What would you have said? What were you hoping? I mean, I suppose getting an agent in the first instance, but what were you...
Just get a job.
Any job?
Any job. Any job. And the first job I got was at Hornchurch Rep as an ASM.
Right.
And that was fine, ASMs in those days didn't do very much. I mean, acting ASM didn't really do any acting at all. It was mostly ASMing and walking on. In fact, I still think of it, the delicious irony. My first professional job after drama school was literally shoveling shit. Literally, because the stage manager said, right, we've got an old prop store over at the White Hart, and it hasn't been opened in 20 or 30 years. So here's the key.
Gosh.
Bring me an inventory of the furniture and props we've got there. When I got there, I opened the door, and it was literally that deep in rat shit.
Oh, my Lord.
So I was given a spade and a broom.
Oh, the glamour.
And I had to stop and laugh because I thought, this is my first job and I'm shoveling shit.
And I think Bristol shortly afterwards, you went off to the Old Vic.
Was that? Yes, it was Bristol Old Vic after that.
Where you met, I think you met Laurence Olivier there, did you? Or not?
No,
that was different.
That came quite a lot later.
Okay, so what's in between? Just slowly building up?
Slowly building up, Bristol Old Vic, and then there started television roles at Granada Television.
Right.
When it was a separate organisation,
yes,
run by Sidney Bernstein. Then there was the Royal. Then that's right. It was Royal Court.
So that was a big one. So 2 years of, I think you've described it as 2 years of hell, but just on the basis of the conversation we've had so far, you would have been absorbing and learning and growing throughout that period, even if elements of it were frustrating. But then you got cast in Look Back in Anger in I think, late 68 at the age of 23.
That was about right, yes. And also, I mean, significantly, at one point at Hornchurch, Anthony Hopkins came to do 2 plays.
Right.
And we shared a house. He had the posh flat downstairs and I had the bedsit upstairs. But we shared a kitchen and used to talk about acting in the kitchen, And he was another one. He was a great influence on me because of he was 28 at the time.
Right.
And his power was extraordinary. But fatally, his alcoholism at the time was very attractive.
To you?
Yes.
Right.
You know, the glamour of it.
Yes.
And seeing him in the White Hart with 10 empty glasses around and studying his script. And I thought, oh, I want to be like that.
Gosh.
But, you know, but ironically, you know, Anthony Hopkins has been teetotal for the last 50 years, and I've been teetotal for the last 53 years.
You beat him to it.
Beat him to it.
But I don't know that you ever succumbed quite as much as he did to the...
I don't
bottle.
think so, no.
But you might have done.
I might have done. Yes, I might have done. But it was not so much, I think, an addiction to alcohol as an addiction to the escape that I thought that it was giving me from what I was repressing inside.
The hole it was filling.
Yeah, thank you, yes.
I thought about that when I was reading up on you earlier, because I just watched the new film, the Richard Burton film, and that the destructive nature, the one with Toby Jones playing Philip Burton, the destructive nature of that relationship with alcohol, and obviously Hopkins springs to mind because he very much followed in Burton's footsteps. Your decision was based on an encounter with someone that you'd been at drama school with, I think, who just...
Yes.
Or inspired partly by him.
Yes, it was. I mean, that's rolling quite a long way forward.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. But I mean,
well, let's roll back.
Okay.
Let's go back to the Royal Court and a big part on a big stage. And
yeah, I mean that was. I mean, really, I think that was the alcohol at its worst.
Right.
Because the guy playing Jimmy Porter was Victor Henry,
right?
Who at the time, sadly now he's not known very
No.
much, but at the time he was one of the most respected and most extraordinary actors around. But he was a helpless alcoholic, but a wonderful actor and a wonderful man and a good friend. And I stayed, you know, bottle of a bottle with him for a while.
Right. You were Cliff, presumably, were you?
I was Cliff, yeah. And then from there we went to the Criterion from the Royal Court.
Quite a big deal for a revival to get a West End transfer.
Yeah.
At that stage. So this is big. This is big time.
Well,
now.
This was the first revival since the first
was.
production at the Royal Court in 56.
Yeah.
And this was the first revival of Look Back in Anger. But the way we did it and the way Victor Henry did it was very, very different.
But it landed. It worked.
Well, it really landed, but Victor Henry was a very visceral, North Country, gritty kind of actor. You know.
Yeah. So he's not playing it frustrated middle class. He's playing it
not at all.
Angry working class.
Not at all. And John Osborne came into the dress rehearsal and he parked his convertible Rolls Royce outside the theatre in Sloane Square and was wearing a short white wolfskin coat. And was whispering notes. And, I mean, how badly can I swear?
As badly as you want, Martin.
I remember Victor Henry stopping, because he could hear the muttering at the back between Anthony Page and John Osborne. And he peered out front and he said, "Osborne, are you out there?" "Yes, Victor." "Listen. If you've got something to say, write it. If you've got nothing to say, don't fucking write it." Now, I don't know what he meant by that.
No.
But it was greeted with silence, and there was no more conversation from the back, because I think John Osborne wanted it softened a bit.
But he wasn't going to do it.
No, fuck that.
Wow.
No.
Did you, I mean, were these pinch me moments, or had it been an incremental rise so that it didn't seem shocking to suddenly be on a stage with John Osborne sitting in the back of the auditorium watching you on stage with someone you liked and admired? Did it feel like a natural progression, or were there moments?
I think it kind of did.
Yeah,
you know?
I thought
I mean,
so.
Obviously for a while, you know, the first time it was, but then suddenly, I mean, Jane Asher played Alison, and I thought, my God, it's Jane Asher. It's Paul McCartney's better girlfriend. Oh my God. But this lasts a day at the most, and suddenly they're people and they're friends. You know?
Yeah. And this was a bit of a turbocharge for everything, really, this part, this performance, this production, because Roman Polanski saw it.
No, Roman Polanski saw another production I did at the Royal Court.
Around the same sort of time, I think.
It was a little later, but it was an American play, and Roman Polanski came to see it, and then phoned me and said, because he had a house in Chelsea, and said, come and talk to me. He said he was doing this production of Macbeth, and was I interested?
Was I ever?
Really? And he said, I think you would make a very good Macbeth. Would I do the screen test? And said, yeah, sure, absolutely. So I did the screen test. I looked at the list of the people who were being tested, Anthony Hopkins, one of them, and I thought, well, game over then.
Yeah.
But I had been warned before I did the test that Polanski had already chosen his Macbeth, and that this was just performative doing the tests. I didn't know whether it was true or not. It did turn out to be true, as it happened, because I got a phone call from him. And he said, look, I think you're a fantastic actor. I want you to play Banquo. And I said, wow, great. And he said, I'm going to make it a much better part than it looks. And so off I went, and that was 7 incredibly wonderful months making that film.
What did you discover doing film that you hadn't discovered training at LAMDA? I mean, what was... Because you've got your career's extraordinary subsequent to this, because you never, ever, ever take one foot off the stage, do you? Even when you're a massive star of screen, you are absolutely married to the stage throughout all of what follows. So what was the difference between making a film with... I mean, it's not a bad starting point to make a film with Roman Polanski, is it? In terms of...
It was a massive education. It was also... It was also a grounding, or if you like, or an appreciation of what I considered then and do now to be an ideal director.
Yeah.
Because of his phenomenal, inspiring, frightening energy. And it was my first film. I'd done a bit of telly and stuff, but it was my first film. And we were setting up a shot that involved 300 extras and about 200 horses in the biggest at that time soundstage in Europe at Shepperton, with an entire castle built inside it, and the doors open so that all of the extras and the horses could come in, which was the arrival at Glamis, Macbeth's coming home, and a storm starts. And so we'd got rain bars all over the studio, lightning effects and so on. All this was being set up. And I was thinking, and I thought, you know what? I think Banquo is onto Lady Macbeth very early. I think he's suspicious of her. I wonder. So I said, Roman, can I put an idea past you? And he turned around and he said, what the fuck? Don't you see what I'm doing? Look, what and he had a real go at me, how busy he was.
Yeah.
And so I just shrank. Oh, God almighty.
What have I done? Yeah.
It took 3 hours to do that setup.
Wow.
And at the end of 3 hours, the first AD says, oh, everybody, okay? Roman, are we ready? Yeah, okay. Martin, come here. What was your idea?
Wow.
Yeah. And so I told him, and he said, fantastic, I'm going to shoot that.
That says lots of things, not least your confidence with Shakespeare. The way that you would relate to the text and have the confidence to actually have original thoughts with regard to it, but also what an extraordinary moment from
absolutely.
A directing point of view.
But he was always open to it. There were a couple of others. I said, could we do so-and-so? To the great Roman Polanski, but I knew that he was open to it.
And he did too.
When we lifted the shield with Macbeth on the shield, and Ross was next to me and was saying, "Hail, King of Scotland," and my idea was to just look at Ross and go, "Yeah, right."
You're loving it now. I mean, and you finish that. You're back at the Royal Court. You're working with Peter Hall. You're at the National. You worked with Olivier not long afterwards in 73 in Saturday, Sunday, Monday. All your dreams are coming true. Stanley Kowalski in A Streetcar Named Desire. I mean, you're almost working your way through the canon of cool dudes almost, aren't you? You're playing all the parts that a young actor would dream of playing, or most of them. Were you aware of that? Were you frightened of the merry-go-round stopping, or were you too busy to care?
I don't think I was frightened of the merry-go-round stopping. I was just taking it as it came,
Yes.
day by day.
And I suppose this is where the booze becomes relevant again, doesn't it, by the early 70s? And I'm thinking about who else is around. Nicol Williamson, Richard Harris, Peter O'Toole.
All of them.
And it was a big, big part of the lifestyle, a big part of the world.
Yeah.
And yet something inside of you must have known that it wasn't necessarily the future you wanted.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much you want to go into this or whether we even have time for it, but it was whilst we were filming Macbeth that I saw on the call sheet a name of somebody who I'd known at drama school, a friend from drama school. And I said, well, come over and have dinner. And he said, yes, I better warn you, I'm a vegetarian.
Okay.
I said, oh, it's all right, we'll make you a cheese salad, And we sat up talking until 3 o'clock in the morning, non-stop. And the following morning, I was a vegetarian and teetotaler.
And I have been ever since. This was Luke Hardy.
This is Luke Hardy.
Who kind of just came along at the right time and made a case that you found completely compelling.
Absolutely. I mean, I tried to argue against it, but I just put everything that I put contrary to what he was saying was rationally and beautifully put to one side.
You had an answer to it. I don't think we need to go into any more detail than that at all. It's just a really interesting thing for an actor of your status and generation to have done something probably 20 years before it became even remotely fashionable.
I guess, yes.
But you didn't do it to be fashionable. You did it because it made perfect sense to you.
It just made perfect sense rationally and emotionally, and it was a decision that was made immediately.
And I mean, you've embraced the spiritual side of life in various different ways over the years, which I presume is a very healthy counterbalance to the actor's life, to the glamour and the showbiz and the superstardom that is now on the horizon with the part that sort of catapulted you into a place. I think it's fair to say you realised quite quickly you didn't necessarily want to be in, talking about playing Ray Doyle in The Professionals.
Yeah, I know. It was a very strange few years because, I mean, you've been very kind in mentioning the career before The Professionals, but The Professionals effectively torpedoed it, in the sense that it was such a monster. It sort of swallowed up everything that had happened before, and because it went on for 4 years. Memories being short, everybody thought, well, this was it. And then it was compounded by the fact that I was deeply unhappy doing the role.
Yeah.
And couldn't get away from it. And they found a way of all of that potential momentum which the previous career had given me was stopped because The Professionals wasn't filming all the time. There were hiatus gaps of 6 months. But they had to give their approval for me to do other work.
They had you by the balls, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
But we had to give approval in case it overlapped.
Right.
But they always said, oh, I'm so sorry. We start filming in 2 weeks before that. But of course they never did.
No, they just wanted you on a very tight leash.
Absolutely. And that went on for 4.5 years. And
for people who don't know, I mean, when you say it was a monster, it was the thing that entire families sat down around the telly to watch. I mean, in many ways, the stuff that actors dream of, but for all the reasons that you've already touched upon, not least the way that it erased, in your mind then, everything that had gone before, because directors sitting around thinking of casting a big production in the West End, a big Shakespeare or a big modern playwright, your name would have been on all of those lists, and by the time The Professionals finished, it wouldn't have been anymore.
Yeah, and it was also the general perception of the sort of actor I was.
That must have driven you mad.
It did a bit.
Because you're a sensitive man, you're exploring spiritual stuff, you're living an abstemious life in order to keep your kind of mind clear and your soul pure, and everyone thinks you're a kind of get your trousers on your nicked merchant.
Kind of, yes. Absolutely. I mean, I could laugh about it now. And
Good.
There was a moment years later that suddenly turned it round, because I was carrying I was carrying anger
I'm
about
sure
it.
you
And
were.
it was only low level.
Sure.
But it's low level or high level. It's corrosive.
Yeah.
And something turned around for me beautifully when I was doing a series that I did love called A&E, where I was playing an emergency doctor. And there was an episode where a drug dealer was brought into A&E, and he was like a 6'4" black man, very powerful. And on the day that we were to shoot his scenes, he came over and he said, "Oh man, it's so wonderful to meet you. You're my childhood."
Oh, wow.
And I thought, "Oh, what? Really?" He said, "Oh yeah, it's so great to meet you." He said, "When I was a little boy, my dad heard that you were filming on the South Bank, and he took me down to the South Bank in case we saw you. And you were on your motorbike, and I met you, and you sat me on your motorbike." And I said, "Wow, I'm sorry. Wow." And he said, "Oh man, you're my childhood." And the whole thing kind of went, "Do you know, a lot of people love this."
What a moment.
Yeah, well,
So you're suddenly seeing it from the viewer's point of view rather than your own.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't be alone, would he? There'd be lots of people like that.
I guess, yeah.
Gosh. And the fact he could come up to you like that, because I loved what you said about your dad and the importance of kindness and integrity. You've carried that throughout your career. I just quickly, because we are going to run out of time, but that's fine, because we've reached the bit where everybody knows who Martin Shaw is already now in the life story. But the thing you said earlier about extras on the set of Macbeth and being kind to people, tell the Crossroads story.
Well, that was
years previously.
That was yeah. I mean, that was another Damascene moment and went all the way through my career.
I gathered that researching this conversation.
It was the first vacation at LAMDA, and I got a job as an extra on Crossroads, and I'd done some amateur
Back at home,
back
in Birmingham.
Back in Birmingham,
It's
absolutely.
fated.
So I'd been around theatre people, but I'd never been on a television studio set before. And they said, "Right, this is the set, and then you do this and you'll do that." And the first one I saw was Noel Gordon, who I had the first interchange with, and I went over and she was wearing sunglasses. And I said, "How do you do? Well, my name's Martin." And she went, and just turned her back on me. And I thought, "Oh, that's embarrassing." And then I went on to the next cast member, and they all did the same.
Because you're an extra.
Because I was an extra. And I remember very clearly thinking, if ever I'm in this position, I will never, ever, ever do that. And every job I've done since, on the first day that somebody new arrives, I will go over and ask what their name is and welcome them and say, I'm Martin. And
it's a bit more theatre-y than screeny, that, isn't it? But you've carried it into all the
everything,
all the jobs,
everything, because I know how new actors, young actors feel when they go into something that's well established.
I'm glad you told that story about A&E and about that moment and that pivot and seeing the role, the show as a viewer sees it rather than as what it did to your career. And you were doing a part then that you enjoyed. People will know you as George Gently, as John Deed. Theatre goers will have seen you in all manner of things over the years. Most recently, again, for the second time, I think, playing Thomas More in A Man for All Seasons. When would you say you let it go? I mean, when did you let go the just even the wondering about what the trajectory would have looked like if the professionals had never happened?
I'm not sure that I ever completely let it go in a completely healthy and detached way.
Okay.
I have the tool bag that God has given me and experience has given me to put it into perspective. But in reality, I think I often look back and think, what would have happened if I'd accepted my agent's advice and not done that job?
Oh, I didn't know that bit. And we'll never know.
We'll never know.
But it is a fairly gratifying body of work.
Yes, I've been very, very fortunate and very blessed.
And you're not done yet?
No, I'm not intending to be until they all say, you're too old, bugger off.
Are there things, because you've never really had ambition in that sort of box-ticking sense, not really from the moment that you had no lines in that play at drama school, and you sort of, what you get out of acting is not necessarily what non-actors think that, and indeed some actors think that everybody is in the business for. I think, are you 80 now, 81?
Mm-hmm.
Do you
80?
80. Is there anything you've never done that you'd like to do professionally?
Oh God, I mean, all of it.
Again?
Yes. No, again. No, I mean, I would like to do more Shakespeare. I would like to do more TV. I'd like to do a great film. But it's the script, it's the text.
But you've done all of that.
I've done all of that. So
but you just like to do more.
I just want more.
But there's nothing that you've not done that you would like to do.
No, just more great lines, which is apart from the wonderful character of Thomas More, however damaged he might have been, or however dodgy his motives might have been, the way the words that Robert Bolt has given him are just such a joy to say.
It's poetry, isn't it? It really is an extraordinary play. We had sitting in that chair last week, Abigail Cruttendon's brother. So there was a strange synergy. Hal was here, and Brian Cox has been there before as well.
Yeah, I know.
Do you get on with other actors? Do you? I mean, you love the job, but
I do.
You love the life, the world.
I love the life. I mean, I've said sometimes that in 60 years, more than 60 years now, I've only ever come across two difficult actors.
We know who one of them is. I don't know.
We know who one of them is, and the other one, I saw 10 years later in a play in Manchester, and I went to see her afterwards to congratulate her, and she said, "I'm so glad to see you. Last time we worked, I was so awful. I'm very, very, very sorry. It gives me a chance to apologise." So in a sense, it's only
comes back. Comes back round.
Came back. So that's. I'm very happy that in 60 years I can only think of one.
Well, it's not a coincidence, is it? You get back what you put in, which is why probably it was tough for you to deal with people who weren't responding to what you were giving them. I'd like to know finally what Mum and Dad made of it all and how much of it they witnessed.
Oh, they loved it. Of course. I mean, once it wasn't so insecure, then yes, absolutely loved it, and deeply and touchingly proud.
And they come and see you in plays and visit the dressing room afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned Quinton earlier. That's one of the first cinemas I ever went to was in Quinton.
Quinton?
Yeah, so they'd be
God,
seeing stuff for seeing.
Oh, I love hearing on the radio when you talk about that area and about Worcestershire and so on, because that was our day out in the car.
Was it?
We'd head that way
because there were trees.
Yes, yes, but I mean that whole area of Malvern and so on, and I love going to Malvern on tour and so on.
It's a lovely little theatre as well, isn't it? A really lovely theatre.
Fabulous. Yeah.
Is there? I mean, if you had to pick not one part, but one part of the job, and that was the only part you were allowed, which one would it be? Do you think?
You mean in the sense of theatre or film?
Not just theatre or film, but doing a theatre like just the Malvern point made me think of it, and going back to Bristol or going back to Hornchurch, doing, regular, constant work in theatres with an audience in front of you, or being a TV or a movie or just because they're two extremes really of the life.
I think it would be either.
Yes.
I mean, when I'm asked which do I prefer, I say whichever one I'm not doing.
Of course, which is why you've carried on doing both of them forever.
Exactly. So when I'm filming a lot and doing 12 hours a day on a set and sometimes more, I think, oh Christ, I must get back to the theatre.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing theatre, and I want the immediacy and the absorption and the continual thinking of film. But it all comes down to the text to me, and the joy of saying wonderful words. It's it's the Oscar Wilde thing. Oh, I wish I'd said that, and having the privilege of doing so.
Yes, you will, Oscar. You will.
Exactly.
What's next?
No, I don't know definitely. The Man for All Seasons surprised everybody.
Yeah, as in how successful and popular it was.
Yeah. I mean,
Did it surprise you?
Not really.
No, I didn't think
Not
it would.
really, because I really didn't think about it, to tell you the truth. It was
Sure.
more of a hope.
Yeah,
But
okay.
I knew that the received information at the time was that you can't do straight plays in London anymore. It has to be a musical or an event, and particularly you can't do straight plays with a big cast.
Okay.
But I had worked with Danny Moore, the producer, and I had worked with Jonathan Church. And I said to Jonathan, let's do it. Let's have a go for it. And he said, yeah. And so did Danny. And so the original idea was just a tour. And then Danny was saying, we're nearly sold out. Wow.
Yeah.
And then the same at the Pinter. So in answer to your question, what's next, they've said a lot of theatres want it back. And there's one or two West End theatres want it back. So in the autumn of next year, we might be doing it again.
I'll break a leg.
Yeah, I hope come and see it.
I'd bloody love to. Martin Shaw, thank you.
Thank you very much.